Hello, this is Dan Pro, and we're back for another portion of our Rigify tutorial. This one is actually our biped rigging portion. So in our previous section we went through and did a lot of mesh preparation on our Eve character, so we don't have any we applied all of our locations, rotations, and scale. We've got all these different mesh objects set up without prior vertex groups or shape keys and things like that. And if you missed that part, it's actually pretty important to get all of our mesh objects ready for rigging, so I would recommend you review that so we can, after we set our Metarig and generate a rig, we'll be ready for skinning. But this portion is actually going to be talking about how to set up the bones in the Metarig to generate a proper rig that's going to work correctly. So we actually need to be a little bit careful here. So I'm going to select this Metarig, and I can't see all the bones in that Metarig, so I'm going to turn on X-ray so I can see everything through our mesh, because we're actually going to use our mesh to inform us where we set all of our joints and our bones and things. And also I'm going to turn on axis display, so if I tab into edit mode, when we start setting these bones up, I need to see how these axes are aligned, where the X, Z, and Y values are. Alright, now a few things before we get in here and just start moving bones around at all willy-nilly. We can actually screw the rig up and make it almost impossible for Rigify to generate a rig that's actually going to work very well for us. So a few tips here that I want to go over before we start moving things. The first one is we want to stay in either front orthographic view. If I type 1 on my numpad, I'm in front orthographic view, and 3 would be right orthographic view. If I hold Control and type 1, I'll be in back orthographic view, and Control and 3, that would be left. 7 will give me a top-down view, and Control 7 will give me a bottom view. So when we're setting up our bones in here, in order not to screw up all these axes too bad, we generally don't want to be in any user perspective. We want to be cocked off to the side like this, because it'll actually start messing with our bone rolls and things like that in ways we don't want to manipulate them. So stay in front, right, left, or top down view if you can, and all possible. It'll really help you save you time setting up your Metarig, and kind of help ensure that we're not screwing all this stuff up. The next thing we want to do is go to our options pad here, options tab rather, and turn on X-axis mirror. That will make it so when I move something on the left side of the rig, the right side will be mirrored across. There are some things that don't get mirrored across. If we were to go in here and type in different values, like let's say I did a bone roll of 12, and that actually moved correctly, but sometimes it won't mirror across. In order to, if you're typing values directly in these transform panels, if you don't see it happening on the other side, all you need to do is do any type of transform. I'm just going to do G and then enter, and then it'll pop over to the from left to right. So, and we'll get to one of those instances here, and I'll point that out, so that will make a little bit more sense. One other thing we need to do is I'll just kind of go bit by bit. I'm pretty used to setting up this normal human Metarig here, and I know kind of the sticking points and where you've got to be careful. So I think we'll start right at the leg. We'll do the left leg here, and the right leg will be with X-axis mirror. We'll just be mirrored across, so we only have half the work. I think the top position here, if I've got the head of the left thigh bone here, and you can also see it down here what I have selected, is about the right height. But I'm going to go to side view, and I need to move the whole leg, needs to go back a little bit. So back to front view, B to box select. I'm just going to draw a box around everything in that leg because I want it all to go at once, and I'm just going to do G, Y to constrain it to the Y axis and drag that back. And I'm not really worried about all this lower stuff yet. I'm just trying to set this, and we're just going to go joint by joint and set everything up. Alright, so that's about centered. GY. I just want it centered right on the mass of that leg right there. Now I'm going to select this knee. It's actually the thigh, or the tip of the thigh. the tail end rather. And GZ, I'm going to drag this up so it's about in line with the knee. Go back to front orthographic view, and let's actually take this, which is the, if we go to the side view here, it's going to be where the ankle is. Front orthographic view, GZ, let's drag this up just underneath, a little lower than, barely lower than where that your ankle bone is right there. Go back to side view, and I want to actually select everything on that foot there. So I want to select all of these bones, just using B to box select again. Just drew a box around there. Make sure that the toe and this other weird little bone here in the center is this back heel. That is all selected, but not anything up above this. GY, I'm going to drag this back. I'm going to set this ankle point right there, about right in the center of the mesh. Now let's set these other foot bones here. I'm going to select the tip of this heel.L. GY, constraining to one axis. Another thing that's going to help keep everything aligned really nice is just constrain everything to move all your points in one axis only if you can. I'm going to select the toe bone, toe.L, GY, and I want the tip, the very end here, the tip of this bone, the tail, to be just barely poking out the front of that leg, and I want to select this joint right here between the foot and the toe. GY, I'm going to drag this back so it's just behind this pinky. And I know it's hard to see in here. We go to maybe front view, maybe down view. I just want that line just below, right about there. So maybe go back just a little bit. GY. Alright. Now I know it doesn't look very good in this view, but we're going to take care of this. The reason I'm not moving anything, I'm trying to keep all this straight up and down because I'm using my 3D cursor here to actually move this now. Actually, let's go back to side view. I'm going to talk about this knee joint. I moved it up to get it in line, but now I need to move it back. And one thing you really need to be careful of, I talked about this when we were setting up Eve's base pose, is we don't want a perfectly straight bone chain right here. It's actually going to make our IK the IK bones and the IK controls kind of freak out. So I'm just do GY and drag this back so it's kind of in the center of this knee mesh right here. And let's go to, maybe I'll try to draw a line here. Let's go to grease pencil, go over here, do line. Let me just draw a line from the hip down there. Now I'm just using that line basically as a reference. As long as that knee is forward of that line, we're going to be good. And that's what I'm talking about, a perfectly straight joint here. We can just X out of that right now. If I was to go straight back, or even worse, back like this, our knee just wouldn't generate a rig that's going to work very well for us. So let's just undo that, transform there. That looks about good to me. We can actually tab back in and out of wireframe mode, and sometimes the wires of our mesh can help us, inform us where we need to be. GZ, maybe up just a little bit more in the center of that edge loop. Alright, so now our legs are set in the side view. We're going to set it in the front view. The heights are set for all of these joints, but now I wonder if the height of this toe, that looks pretty decent, I guess. Alright, I'm going to select the head of this thigh bone, Shift S, cursor to selected, make sure that my pivot point is at 3D cursor, and then I'm going to use B to box select that whole leg again, then R, Y, and I'm going to rotate that whole leg so this ankle joint is now in its correct spot. We had this in the correct spot to start with, and you see the knee lined up pretty well there. We don't have to do any adjustment there. It's better to have these two bones in a straight line, at least with the standard human Metarig. Now let's select this joint, Shift S, cursor to selected, and just do B to box select these lower bones. I want to make sure the heel, the foot, the toe, and this other secondary heel bone is all selected. I'm going to rotate this back so it's straight. RY. using that 3D cursor there as a guide, and we can just hold shift if we need to fine tune this, get that straightened back out. And don't worry if your foot is off just a little bit, you know, it's cheated to this inside, you know, there's more mesh on the outer foot here. That's actually going to work. This foot control that's going to be created is going to work better if these bones are nice and straight. Alright, one more final thing here is we want to take this center bone here, this weird looking thing here in the center called heel.02. We want that to be the width of our foot, so I'm going to select the tail end, GX, drag that to just outside the foot, and then the head of the bone, GX, again just on the outside of that foot right there. So now everything is set for our legs. You can actually just select all these, and because we're using X-axis mirror, everything on the right side is taken care of. You can just hide everything. Now let's go to side view and start setting up our spine. I think our arm is actually in the way here. We can temporarily just box select all these, just get rid of our arms here temporarily, hide them with H. We can concentrate on only the spine area. Let's just do front view here, and the hip bone right here should be at the base of the crotch, so GZ, and this next joint, GZ, we'll just constrain it to the only up and down. We want it just below the belly button a little bit. It's decent for a hip on a female, a little bit different for a male. And GZ, we just want it just below the sternum. You can see kind of the rib cage of Eve kind of poking out a little bit there, and below the chest, where the stomach, just below where the chest bones and the stomach meet there. Now let's now if we grab the chest, you can see it's not connected to this neck, but I want to, just holding shift, I'm going to try to select that neck as well, then GZ, drag this down. If you put your finger right in the center of your throat, you'll feel where those two bones come together. You've got kind of a dip there. That's about where we want the neck bone and this chest to be. So this collarbone, if I actually just hide these, kind of go right along here, that's about where we want that. I'm going to unhide them, just Control Z to undo the hide, so I don't have to rehide all the other bones. So our chest and our neck bone is set properly, and it's actually hard to set the base of the neck from this front position. We'll just drag it down a little bit and make sure it's just high enough, GZ, to go just above the hair or the head or whatever else we're working on. Well, let's go to side view and set everything in that view. So this looks like it's centered pretty much on the center of the crotch area. I'm going to GY, drag this back. I want to cheat this spine just back towards the back end a little bit, not completely all the way back, but more towards the back. GY once more for the area between the chest and the spine bone. Again, cheating it towards the back end a little bit. And once again, I need to select the chest and the neck. Let's go back to 3 on our numpad for side view. GY. Just kind of cheat this back a little bit towards the back end here. Now, next one, the joint between the head and the neck. GY. Now, your head always rotates from the base of the skull just behind the ear. So if we were to draw a line by the jaw, you should put it right about there. That's where your skull rotates from. So GY, it's back far enough, and I just need to go up a little bit. So GZ, right at this base. That'll work good for us. And then GY, let's straighten out this head bone. And don't worry about trying to cheat it forward or doing anything weird like this. We'll just leave it straight up and down. For now, it's going to work for us. So the spine is set. Now we need to set our collarbone. I'm actually going to go to top-down view here. I actually prefer to have my collarbones straight. So GY, I'm going to just try to make this bone completely straight. And I can actually do this in a different way. I'm going to use the Y location of the head. So hovering over the Y location of the head, Control C to copy it, and then hover over the tail position, also in Y, Control V, paste that, so you see 0019, 0019, and that straightened out that bone. Another little tip to straighten out things. Alright, back to top-down view. Let's do G, Y, and drag this back. And I want this point to be about where the delta is. The deltoid is, rather. Okay, and that's gonna work. Maybe I'll just cheat this forward just a little bit. G, Y, not quite there. Alright, and I don't really want this. I want to give a little bit of room in here. G, let me actually drag this down a little bit. G, Z, so it's lined up about where the collarbone starts. Alright, that looks decent. And then GX, I'm going to select that head. Just give it a little bit of room in between there. Alright, Alt H to unhide everything again. Now that our spine and everything is taken care of, our spine, our legs, we only need to really do our arm. So let's select everything on the left side here, and then select everything, all the remaining things we've already positioned on the leg. And just hide that. Just hide that collarbone as well, and we can concentrate on doing only this arm. So just like the leg, we're going to want to have a little slight bend. We had a little slight bend on that knee. Now we're going to need a little bit of a slight bend on our elbow here. Let's go to front orthographic view, and having everything selected, GZ, to set this bone position on this upper arm.L right in the middle of that deltoid. We'll reselect everything. Well, let's actually select that. Do Shift S, cursor to selected, then reselect all of these bones. Make sure that all the fingers are connected here. And using our 3D as the pivot point, do RY. Let's just rotate this up. I'm actually just trying to set this wrist bone about the right height. So RY, and I'll fix this up here a little bit later. Let's go to top-down view. Let's actually move this whole thing back so this joint is in the center of those deltoids. G, Y. To do that, let's reset our 3D cursor. Shift S, cursor to selected, so it's at the head of this upper arm.L. Reselect all of our bones. Then rotate around the Z axis. Kind of bring. I'm just gonna put that wrist bone kind of skipping across this one here for now, because now I'm just going to select this GX, line it up a little bit better with where the elbow is, and GY. And we need a slight bend again, just like the leg. We don't want it straight like this, we want it bent just a little bit, but we already kind of modeled that into Eve here on our earlier tutorial, so we've already got that slight bend there. GX, just a little bit further over here. Alright, now that looks good in top-down view. Let's look at side view, and I think that this joint is just a little too high. GZ to drag it down centered, and alright. Now this is a little bit cockeyed here. You can see the bone, this one's kind of twisted this way, this one looks like it's twisted back a little bit. I'm just going to use these axes. I'm going to select this upper arm bone here, and then doing Control R, I can set my bone roll. Let's actually go to individual origins. So Control R, let's roll this. Let's go to, make sure I'm side view here. Now it might be a little bit hard to see here, but I'm trying to get this Z axis to be straight out and the X axis to be straight up and down. So Control R, you can see where it's rotating there. That looks pretty decent to me, and I want to change this one as well, just to straighten it out. Control R. Now you can see the roll values here. Don't worry about the values themselves, worry about the direction of the axes. So that looks about right. maybe a little bit more. That looks pretty decent. Let's go back to top-down view, and I'm going to grab the tip of this hand.L, and I'm going to put it over here, about the center of this middle finger, kind of a little bit back, kind of in the knuckle area. Let's look at this bone roll here, if I can see it. There's a lot of bones in here. I grab that, just wiggle it around to get my eye on where this is. Let's check out how that's rolled. Control R, make that Z-axis point straight down. Alright, now this upper part is completely done, I believe. Let me check this from a few different angles. I think that's going to work for us. So select the upper arm bone, the forearm bone, and then the hand, and let's just hide them. Now this fingers usually take a while, and I'm going to show you the trick to make this work. It's going to be really quick and very, very easy. So I'm going to go to top-down view, and this isn't going to look good from side view, but we're going to do all of this from top-down view, and basically I'm going to set all of these bones in this single view. I can just grab this because it's only going to move in Y and X. I can just kind of manipulate this stuff, set everything exactly where I want it in one view, and then I'm going to go to side view and constrain it only to the Z-axis and set everything up and down. So basically what we're doing in top-down view right now is just setting our Y and X, all of our bones. Now I want to center everything right on these fingers. Make sure that these joints, now you just look at your hand, the joint doesn't rotate from up here, it rotates back further. You just look at your own knuckle and kind of figure that out. And we can, once again, we can use our, go to wireframe. Sometimes that helps us see where our topology is here. You can see that's where the split is. You can use that as a guide. That's why I've just moved it out of the way here too, so I can see where this little line is here, and make sure that the tip is just outside the top of that finger. Now I don't know if it's going to be easier or harder for you watching this video to see that, but oops. Anyways, whether I'm in this mode or wireframe, but basically we've got our pinky set. Now let's just continue on down the, make sure we're in top orthographic view, top down mode. We're not going to move anything without being in there. We don't want to be in user perspective. That'll really mess this up severely and make this not work. So make sure that nothing is getting moved without being in top orthographic view. We'll just set all these down, make sure that everything is centered here. We can tab back and forth and look at our mesh and where our edge loops are to kind of inform us where these joints will be. And this isn't going to look good inside view right away here, but trust me, this is actually the quickest way to do this, and we're actually going to set all of our bone rolls at the end, and I'll show you a really neat trick to make that very, very easy as well. We're almost done with our fingers, with only the thumb left. Be a little fussy here. Make sure everything's centered correctly. Alright, everything looks good from this side. Now, let me just do Alt-H to unhide that. So I wanted to see this wrist joint right here. Your thumb actually rotates pretty far back here. It's pretty close to this wrist joint. So let's put that point back in this direction. Then our next joint is about right there. Next joint is about right there. Alright, I think we are done. We are in top-down view here. Now everything's going to look ugly. We're going to go to side view, and you're going to see, you're going to go, holy crap, that doesn't look good at all. Let me actually take this hand bone and then this arm, rehide them. So back to front view. Now here's the trick. We're going to select these joint by joint. I'm going to select this first one and then constrain it to only the Z-axis. So G Z, I'm going to put this about where that thumb is going to be. Right, the center of that thumb. I know this might be hard to see. Once again, GZ, joint by joint, GZ, make sure that you're not moving this in any other axis other than Z. Put this right at the center of that tip. Now let's look at that, and it's perfectly aligned. Magic, huh? So one more thing we need to do with that, but we're done with that thumb bone for now. Let's just hide that. Go back, make sure we're in front orthographic view, and we will set this index finger. So G, Z, make sure you're constraining it to only the Z axis. And if you need to go kind of cant it off so you can see what joint you're selecting, because I know these are all sitting on top of each other, it's kind of hard to see, go ahead and do that, but make sure you type 1 on your numpad and then GZ, constrain it to that single axis. So basically what we're trying to do on these fingers, we want it just above the halfway point, so it's just cheated a little bit towards the top of the finger. GZ. So that actually wasn't too bad. You have to admit that that was pretty good. And we go back to top-down view. 7. Everything's centered real nice right there. Side view. And any other view, that index finger looks pretty good. So let's hide everything. Once again, 1 to get to side view. Now this one's going to be a little bit difficult just because this finger is in the way. So we got to use our imagination a little bit here. But once again, front orthographic view, G, Z, only the Z axis. Kind of figure out where that middle of that, just a little upper part of that middle finger is there. Now let's take a look and see if we got that right. Sure looks good to me. Let's go back to front. Down. I think this is off a little bit from top-down view. Go back to side view, or front orthographic rather. That looks pretty decent. Alright, so middle finger's done. Hide this. Now I'm going to go to back view here. So Control 1. I'm going to set this pinky first. Again, constraining it only to the Z axis, G and Z. I'll put this bone, you can see that should go about right there. That's how the finger and the palm is. GZ. That looks pretty decent. Let's actually look at it from a different view. Looks like everything is centered on there pretty well. Check it again from top-down view. Make sure that these bones are going down the center of that mesh there. Let's move that just a little bit. Okay, this one is done. Hide it. One more left. Again, Control 1. We'll go to back view. GZ. Set this up. Now that wasn't very painful. The fingers always take the longest, and if you use this method right here, I don't know if there's a quicker way to do it than what I just did right there. One final thing we do need to do though is make sure that our bone rules are correct, so our finger rigs actually work right. So now that this is set, actually drop this down a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alt-H to unhide everything. Now here's the next trick to set all these basically need to have all of their axes pointing the right direction here. Let's start at the thumb here, and I'm going to show you the trick to get this done really quick. And we're only going to roll this end bone here. So basically the way the finger rig is going to work, it's going to use the x-axis as the pin. So what that means is the Z needs to point in the direction that the finger is going to bend. So I just want to select this, Control R, and roll that. Now the thumb is going to bend around that x-axis, directly that. It's kind of, your thumb will always kind of rotate in that weird, at a little bit of a weird angle here. So setting all this up for the first time. You'll probably get it wrong, but don't worry, it'll come to you. So a little bit of an angle there. That's the direction it's going to bend. It's going to bend around that axis. Let's select the first thumb bone, holding shift, the second one, and then now finally this is the active bone. Now it's the one that was selected last. Do Control N. We're going to recalculate our roll to the active bone. So that's all we need to do, because we set this one. All these axes are now all aligned. You can see that all X's are all pointing the same direction. All the Z's are going the same direction. So pretty simple. We will hide that. Rinse and repeat for all the other fingers. And like I said, we only need to do this end one. So let's just look at it and watch these axes. Control R. Let's roll this. So the Z is pointing in the direction it's going to bend. We will select all these other bones. With the last one selected last, Control N, recalculate our roll to our active bone. Hide it. Rinse, repeat. We're almost done with our finger setup. Control R. Just look at this from a few different angles here. I know when you've got X-ray on, sometimes it can be really hard to see what's going on here. So just kind of rotate your view around a little bit if you're not absolutely sure where everything is pointing. Alright, that's set. So select the palm bone, the other two finger bones, the tip as active one, Control N, active bone, and then H to hide. Let's see here. A lot of stuff getting in my way here. Kind of making it difficult to see the direction. Control R. That one's off quite a bit. Alright, palm bone, the other two finger bones, the tip, Control N, active bone, H to hide. Let's actually hide that. It's actually this thigh bone was actually getting in my way. So anyways, one bone left. We're almost there. Control R. Control R. Make sure it's rolled the Z pointing there. That looks good. Last palm bone, these two fingers, and the tip. Control N, active bone, and we can actually do Alt H to unhide everything now. And I think we're set. I just want to just double check everything, kind of make sure that nothing jumps out at me here to being too far off. I think all of our bone rolls are set correctly. Everything is straight. We've got our X-axes all pointing the correct way. They're all the same way on the legs. They're all the same way out across the arm. I think we're good to go. I think all of our bones are set in our Metarig, and that's going to mean that our generated rig is going to work well right off the bat. So I'm actually just getting over 30 minutes on this portion. So for our next chapter, we will actually generate a rig, and then we will start skidding it. So until then, good luck.